The following is the message from the FROMMGM fandom to the creators of the TV show From.
I'm sick and tired of getting dicked around. If you really want our help, if there is something you need us to understand, you're gonna have to do a little better because we are not getting it. You hear me? Message is not fucking received. So we're gonna sit here and we're gonna wait. And when you decide that you have something more to say than fucking and cooey, you know where to find us.
Hello everyone and welcome to Geek Anime channel. I'm your detective host Igor, and today we're going to deep dive on season finale of From. It was a great episode. I got a lot of what I was waiting for, a lot of information, a lot of new questions, a lot of food for new theories, and I'm so excited to share everything with you. I put my favorite shirt and I prepared for you what I think is one of my best videos so far. But before we begin, as usual, I want to thank everyone who supports me on Patreon and on YouTube. Your donations is what make this channel possible. Now, since the last time we spoke, I have a new motivator. Thank you, C. Rick, for joining this community, and I also have a new champion, Monica W. Thank you so much for your support. And oh my god, 2 whole new beacon of lights. This is absolutely incredible. Candace Vogler and Gonzalo Montoya. Gonzalo asked me for a small favor. He actually found this channel thanks to the Reddit user named Great Sagittarius, and he wanted me to give him a shout out, or her, I don't know. Thank you so much for bringing such an awesome dude to my Patreon. Thank you so much, Great Sagittarius, and let's dive in. Now this time we have 4 different storylines. We have 2 small ones, Randall, Marielle, and Henry and Victor, and we have 2 big ones, Boy trying to save Fatima with everybody else, and of course Jade, Tabitha, and Jim trying to understand the secret of the bottle tree. And you know, it's only logical to start with the small ones. We need to finish with them as soon as we can to actually start analyzing the big information we received in this episode. Now let's see some Randall here. He is suffering from cicadas. I actually had tinnitus a couple of years ago. I was told by the doctors I'm not going to be able to recover from it. It's going to stay with me for the rest of my life, and just from this small buzzing I was already, you know, waiting to shoot myself in the head because it was really annoying, but gladly it passed. So I kind of understand, you know, like think about it, like having cicadas in your head, which is way worse than tinnitus. I think it's a pretty bad situation. So I kind of understand Randall here, why he's trying you know, to do whatever he's about to do in this episode. And we can see that Marielle and Julie, who were almost useless in this season, I'm sorry to say it like this, but their characters didn't have almost any development. Like the only thing that happened with Christy is that she got injured in her leg, and that's it. Now she also, as we can see, not healing well, and we know that this was one of the best aspects of this place. Like if you got injured like Ethan or like Alice in season 1 and season 2, a couple of minutes later you're already, you know, like going to the dancing party, and Christy is not really healing that fast. Now another interesting thing for me here is this is the second time we see this, you know, like the medical walking stick, whatever it's called. We've seen this also in the preview, in the intro. Every time we see in the new episode we have some kind of walking stick. Now usually I thought it was the one that Alice made for Ethan in the beginning of season 1, but then I checked it and it's not the same. So, you know, we're gonna talk a lot about, you know, recycling of these timelines here in this place. You know, like rebirth, reincarnation of the souls. Now, if we're coming back here, we see that this is a different stick. This is not the same that Ethan had. This is not the one that Christy has. So it's probably somebody else. Maybe from the previous timeline. Maybe from the previous cycle. Now, another interesting thing here is also the butterflies. And we're gonna talk a little bit about butterflies today because, once again, rebirth, reincarnation, butterflies are the symbol of, you know, like transforming something that, you know, was like a caterpillar and then it becomes a butterfly. So, you know, like, anyway, we're gonna get back to it. Meanwhile, we can see that Randall is not the guy in the yellow suit. Okay, like I want to start with it right away because this scar is not gonna recover anytime soon. It's not gonna disappear. It's don't matter how much you go into 10 or whatever you do with it, you're gonna have this scar for the rest of your life, and the guy in the yellow suit didn't have any scar, so it's not Randall. No, Since we're talking here about From, obviously you cannot say here anything with 100% certainty, but like 90% is enough for me to be, a little bit confident in what I'm saying. Of course, everything can be here, everything is possible in FROMMGM, but meanwhile, Randall is not the guy in yellow. So let's talk about Mobius. We talked about it a little bit in previous episodes, I think in episode 4 when we first saw this logo. It's obviously not a real logo. Maybe it's just something that it's short from, I don't know, medical, whatever. Or maybe it's somehow related to Dr. Mobius. It's like, like mystical sci-fi criminal drama from the earliest years of the previous century, like 1912 or 1920, something like this. This was written by some German author. It helped people to deal with, we lost the World War I war. And now we don't really trust anybody, we suspect of, of the people up top. It was a period where everybody who was somehow, ruling party or whatever, or like an aristocrat, everybody would be suspicious of them because they, like they're manipulating everything. Now, Dr. Mobius sounds like something not really familiar to our pop culture, but actually I started to read about it, and very famous character was slightly based on Dr. Mobius, and I'm talking about the Joker by Heath Ledger. I read an interview with Christopher Nolan when he said that he actually made his brother to watch the Dr. Mobius movie before they started to write the script. So the whole, like the Joker of Heath Ledger, he's behind the scenes. He's like, when he's like sitting in the jail, but things are still happening. Now in the movie Dr. Mobius, he's like in an asylum, but he's still, like doing everything, like he's controlling everything from the shadow, and the whole criminal world is basically, under his thumb or whatever. So I don't think that Dr. Mobius is gonna enter in season 4 and gonna be like, yeah, I'm Dr. Mobius, fuck everybody, you gonna serve me now, bitches. Probably not, but this is maybe something that is being taught in popular cinema schools, and a lot of maybe directors are familiar with this character, so he can serve as an inspiration. And we're gonna get familiar with the guy in the yellow suit, grandpa in the yellow suit, who probably was the one manipulating all of the electric devices, trying to manipulate our characters. Maybe he was behind the cicadas, maybe even more. So far it's all speculation, but it kinda seems logical. Anyway, I'm a bit ahead of myself, let's move forward. We have Randall here, as I told you, feeling pretty bad, and I can understand this guy, like he wanted to kill himself already. And we have Marielle here saying like, I don't feel good and I probably never will feel good anymore. Now, this line of Marielle and Randall barely got any development in season 3. A couple of minutes that were dedicated to them in the season finale were basically just saying to us, this is not over. We're gonna see them again, we're gonna have some problems with cicadas, something's gonna happen with Marielle and with Randall. Since, Elgin and Tilly got some really, serious development in season 3, and those two were kinda neglected, I think they are preparing something big for those two for season 4. Now we finished with Randall and Marielle, and let's move to my boy Victor, one of my favorite characters. I absolutely adore the actor. He is responsible for 9 out of 10 emotional moments here. Like, this is not a TV show that I watch to get like emotional. I want to be like, experiencing something and crying or something like this. I watch this TV show for the mysteries, for the riddles, because I like to work my brain in that way. Like, if I want to be emotional, I will watch Arcane. But every time I'm crying in this show, this is almost always connected somehow to Victor. There was just only one time when Boyd was talking to Kenny in the beginning of this season. All of the rest episodes, it's Victor with somebody. It's like, oh, he is with Tabitha or he is with Henry. Huge respect to the actor, to the director, to the writers, to anyone who's responsible for this dude being the most heartfelt character of this TV show. Now we have here the boy in white, and like we have already the whole bunch of them. We have the boy in white, we have the man in yellow. I think we can safely assume who is actually responsible for a lot of bad things here in this place.
Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?
No, of course I'm kidding, but I'm a little bit frustrated, just like Victor when he's saying like boy in white wasn't really helpful. And then we are moving forward and he's talking already to Henry. Now Henry got some really good advice in the previous episode, if you remember, when Jade told him like, stop trying to fix this guy, this is not something you can fix, he grew up here, he's this place, so you better deal with it. And this is what Henry is doing. So Victor is taking him to the graveyard where he actually buried his mom and his sister, or at least he thinks he did. Anyway, we can see like some drawings that he made. Once again, it's absolutely heartbreaking thinking about a kid who's like 11-12 years old who needs to bury his mom and the remains of his sister. This is insane. And he's drawing, look at this drawing. This is a drawing by somebody who should never bury their parents, and especially their sister. This is absolutely insane how he's still like alive and how he's still functioning psychologically. Now, this guy went through so much shit, it's absolutely unbelievable. Now we have also the drawing for the Eloise, and now like the most logical, the sane, you know, the bland, the boring explanation is that Eloise is also dead because he found her remains. Like, he found some pieces. Now, he wasn't just, you know, collecting pieces. Okay, this is a bloody piece, this is probably my sister. There was probably some, you know, clothes, something that helped him to assume that this belonged to his sister. But we're talking about TV shows, we're talking about drama, and usually when in a TV show, especially in a long-running TV show, if somebody is not confirmed 100% dead, they usually aren't. We get 100% confirmation that Miranda is dead. She is buried there, absolutely no doubt about it. But when he asks about Eloise, he says like, probably, maybe she is, I think so, all I found were pieces. And like, if you remember how we found Megan, I'm not gonna linger too much on this image, but those monsters, they don't really tear people apart. They usually like break them from the inside, but the face is pretty much untouched most of the times. And it's kind of like similar to what happened to Megan and her mom and her dad, whatever his name was, Frank, I think. It's kind of similar to what happened with Victor and his family also, you know, like the mom and the sister were killed, the mom and the girl, sorry. The dad was not here in this place, he was drinking, he was kind of a deadbeat dad, whatever, he was not around, he was drinking alcohol, blah blah blah. It's not exactly the same, but it kind of made me think about some similarities. But this moment completely broke me. I was tearing up, I was emotional, so my god, whatever. Like, I will never stop being your dad. Maybe it's because I became a dad a couple of days ago. This is some great news for me. I wanted to share it with some people that I care about, and as you can see, my energy is way up, especially like in a span of 10 days. I had the worst day of my life. I lost my beloved dog, and I actually became a father, which was obviously without no competition the best day of my life ever. Like, this is the birth of my son, this is the second place here. So yeah, maybe it's because of that, but I think a lot of people like felt this moment when he said to Victor, like, I'm your dad, I will never stop being your dad, this is my job. And it also kind of brought me back to this moment, you remember?
A man protects his family, Frank. A man protects his family. Look at what you did.
So there is this theme of, you know, this is your role, you're supposed to be that. A father's job, a man's job is to protect his family. This is what you need to remember, this is what you need to fulfill. And we can see here, like, once again, Victor is getting some sort of a family, far from perfect, but you know, after everything he's been through, completely emotional, very much. Even the most like robotic people would behave like this right now.
Feelings inside. Oh no.
Now we finished with the emotional part, and let's start digging in. Let's start diving in because we have a lot to cover, and we're gonna start with Boyd trying to save Fatima. Now this map doesn't bring us anything new. It's the same map as we have seen many times. Like, we know this is the colony house, this is Randall's, this is the town, this is the pool, blah blah blah. But once again we're seeing RANDALL's move, the fake company that doesn't exist in our world obviously, but it's been repeated many times in this show. We've seen it, oh my god, we've seen in this season in the online ad, RANDALL's move. and it's 2021 or something like this in this TV show, because we have seen it also on the calendar since 1971 or something like this. Also Randa's move. By the way, remember this calendar? I have an interesting theory about this one. We also have, you know, Boyd's pickup car, whatever. I don't know how it's called. You'll understand what I'm talking about. Like, this is the Randa's move he was carrying there. So Randa's move, Randa's move, Randa's move. Since we're talking about, you know, already time travel and things that can be changed in the past and they will affect the future or something like this, maybe there is something about Randa's move that we still don't know. I don't want to believe that it's just there to be there. I want to believe that the creators want to tell us something. Like Randa's move, notice this company is important. I don't know why, I don't know how, but maybe I have some kind of an ideas. Anyway, we have like Kenny's problem. I think it's also a setup for season 4. You know, once again, Boyd is lying to Kenny. He's not telling him about what Fatima did, and Kenny is like trying to understand like why was she out there? Why was she going there? After that, there's gonna be a couple of more moments like that, so maybe the conflict between Kenny and Boyd is not over yet, even though it kind of feels like he forgave him, he became a deputy again, but he needs to be able to trust Boyd, and Boyd shows his family over the rest of the town, once again, because father's job, a man's job, is to protect his family. This was one of the first words that we heard from Boyd. It's not a big surprise that he would choose Fatima all over the town from like. Anyway, we can see that Fatima having her spiritual belly. Now what's interesting for me, I know that Elgin saw the belly is getting bigger, but after she gave birth to this motherfucker, she actually had like completely like flat stomach. Now, if you've been pregnant or whatever, your girlfriend, your wife have been pregnant, you know it doesn't work like that. You don't give a birth to the baby and then you have like rocking 6 abs there, you know, it doesn't work like that. So maybe it's also something that's similar to the cicadas, like nobody was able to see them and then suddenly some people were able to see them. Or like, you know, Jade and Tabitha is gonna see the Ankui children, but you know, Jim is not gonna be able to do that. Anyway, we're not gonna get an answer for that, it's just me being curious. So Boyd here is saying something that kind of bugged me. He's saying to Sarah that Elgin told to Alice that they all gonna come back home because of Fatima or whatever. Now, this is not something that we've seen. I specifically rewatched this moment again of this conversation between Alice and Elgin just said that, you know, maybe it's a good thing, whatever happening right now. Maybe it's something really good. He never said this is how we're gonna get home. So what is this Boyd assuming here? Something like this? Or this is something that stayed behind the scene? If yes, it's stupid. Don't do like this. This is not a very good directing and cutting and editing. So what happened here? Probably some kind of a bug. Anyway, we're moving forward and we can see that Elgin is busted. They're like onto him, so they're like questioning him, and I kind of felt for the guy. Actually, I know he's stupid, I know he believed some dumb shit, but like once again, we've been explained many times that this place can really fuck up your brain and you can do some really bad shit here, just like Sarah, that most of us already kind of forgave, you know, because it's once again, it's a TV character or whatever. It's not like she really killed people or whatever, but he is, you know, he is believing that he's seen an angel, and the angel's supposed to be scary. You know, they're supposed to be scary and terrifying because of their power, because of their vibe, as you know, Gen Z is saying right now, whatever. I'm not that young. Anyway, like, but he thinks that this creepy Ghost of Tsushima somehow can be an angel. But he wants to help. He's like, he's an innocent, but stupid. He's an innocent soul. Like Sarah is gonna talk about. Once again, we're talking here about people having a specific role for this place. Not necessarily they're gonna play the role exactly like the previous one, like the previous actor from the previous cycle, but their character, their beliefs, their like inner code, whatever you want to call it, will actually drive them to do what this place need them to do. And this is what happening to Elgin. He's like, he's doing harm to Fatima, but he's doing way less harm than Sarah, for example, because once again, Fatima is not gonna die. And everybody is like, you know, we're gonna torture you right now. Also, I tried to understand what he was taking to Fatima here. I zoomed in, you know, once again, the quality of the image, absolutely astonishing. And I cannot see what the hell is that. Probably some clothes, but what is that? Probably not something super interesting, but once again, as soon as the 4K is gonna be released, I'm gonna check it out. Maybe it's gonna be interesting. If not, you're never gonna hear about it again. Anyway, moving forward, and we have the Padre Katri talking here to Boyd behind the 3-barred cross. We talked about him in my previous videos. I'm not gonna bother you too much with that anymore. It's not really relevant to today's storyline. But Father Katri here is trying to convince Boyd that he's actually at the threshold. You remember episode 8 when Julie went to the ruins and she was like, what is this place? And Ethan, who suddenly knows all of the terms of, you know, a professional screenwriter, told her that she's at the threshold. And threshold is the point of the story for a hero when there is no return. You need to like take a decision, you need to do something, you need to like, maybe it's some sort of a danger, some sort of a fear that you need to overcome, but whatever it is, there is no coming back from it. And like when Father Katri talks to Boyd, he's actually saying to him that you're not different than anybody else and you were supposed to be different. Your role was supposed to be different. If there are actually two opposing forces here in this place, you know, maybe the boy in white versus the man in yellow, or you know, the boy in white, he grew up and this suit became like really dirty, so it looks yellow right now. I'm kidding, of course, but you know, if there are actually two forces and one of the forces being presented through Father Katri as an avatar that wanted those people to be able to escape and save themselves, they were putting their hopes on Boyd, and Boyd is kind of failing them because like, you were supposed to be better than this, but then you're gonna torture some kid and you're gonna let this place actually win. And you see, you need to decide right now who you are. And usually I would interpret it like, you know, all of those speeches from every movie or every dramatic TV show that you ever seen, in like the motivational speech. This is the moment, you need to go to the ring and you need to fight this guy, you need to show the world who you are. But not this time, especially after the whole cycle theory, the whole reincarnation theory is being kind of proven here, and we know that the cycles are repeating themselves, we know that people can be twice here in the same place, like you can die and come back as a different person but the same soul. So maybe when Father Katri is saying to him that this is the moment when you have to decide, this is actually a threshold for Boyd. And if Boyd is gonna be broken and if he's gonna start torture this kid and completely go dark side, this whole place is fucked up and nobody ever gonna be saved, because once again, Boyd is undoubtedly one of the most important characters, even though in season 3 he was kind of like, I'm gonna go catch some monsters, I'm not gonna catch some monsters, forget about it, I'm gonna go do that, and we're gonna burn the monster, whatever, I'm not gonna burn the monster, blah, blah, blah. So hopefully we're gonna see some more of Boyd in season 4, but you know, season 3 he was a little bit disappointing. So yeah, Fatima breaks stuff, she like takes blood, and I would give a lot of money to know what book is that, because this place looks like something that people used to live there. Look at this stone structure, like the way the stones are put on each other in this cellar where Fatima is held. This is the same you know, like technique of building that we're gonna see in more places here in Fromville, and we're gonna get back to it. Anyway, like we have once again Kenny is like trying to convince Boyd maybe it's not a good idea to torture this guy. He didn't do so far something that bad, you know, he didn't kill Fatima, whatever. And like, look at this guy. This guy is wearing his shirt with the crow. And finally, I think I start to understand what this all means. Because this guy is just a tool. This is a tool for this place. Like, not a tool like, you know, like a tool of moron, which is also kind of true, but also like something that was just used as an instrument to achieve a goal, to make Fatima pregnant. Whatever, he didn't make Fatima pregnant, you know what I'm talking about, to kidnap Fatima and bring her to the cellar, whatever. So the crows are actually tools of this place, and maybe they are connected somehow to the man in yellow. You see the yellow here? And the crows are actually can be eyes of the guy in the yellow, and here at this moment he really didn't want, or he or something like this, or it didn't want Fatima to see the tarot card reading by Tilly, and he sent a crow here to actually do some kamikaze shit. And here we also can see that in this moment, like when Fatima and Boyd in episode 9 they were running to the shed, we also heard the crows cawing. Now there are like dozens of moments like this. If I would find all of them, it would take like almost half of this video probably. But a lot of the important moments in this TV show, you have the small subtitles there that are saying crows are cawing. So crows are the eyes, they are like mini cameras that are being used by the Force in this place to see what the hell is going on. Now here we can see the Polaroid message and it's been sent to Boyd, maybe trying to convince him to help here Elgin, even though this place doesn't really need Elgin anymore. Even though they tortured the guy and didn't let him go to Fatima, she still gave birth to the whatever egg shitty crazy thing that is. And nothing really happened. Like, I mean, happened, but you know, like Elgin not being able to escape didn't really change anything. So maybe this place is just once again trying to screw Boyd's mind. And he's seen his house, the new house that he bought for his family for their retirement, and he was actually waiting so much for the boat. You remember Abby bought him a boat, but for some reason on this image they don't have a boat. Where the fuck did the boat go? I think this is one of the most important questions we need to ask ourselves, because maybe it tells us that this Force that knows how to see everything in Fromville and has also some power in the outside world, it was able to talk to Father Khatri, the boy in white was somehow also, you know, appearing to Tabitha, and they know exactly how to reach Miranda with the voices of Ankui children, whatever. But maybe it's not completely omnipotent, because like it doesn't see the boat, and the boat is supposed to be there. Who took the fucking boat? Or they took a picture, whatever it is, from before, something that didn't happen, like something that happened way before that Abby bought the boat for Boyd. Abby bought. Anyway, moving forward, like this is an interesting question. I don't have an answer for it, but this is something worth keeping in mind. It's probably gonna come back in the next season, because once again, this is probably the first time we're seeing this Force making some sort of a mistake, and I think it's important. Like, you remember this moment when Boyd was climbing after Julie threw him the rope? He sees this vision suddenly of Alice like talking to him like, it's getting dark, Dad, let's take the boat out. It's not just vision. Nothing here in this TV show is just vision. It's somehow related to something that's either gonna happen to Boyd, maybe parallel universe, maybe a different timeline, since we have time travel here already officially in this show, but this is somehow relevant. Here we can see that Boyd is tying up Elgin. This is gonna be important a little bit later, and he's like, yeah, my boat, my house. We can see the judgy Father Khatri here looking if Boyd is actually gonna break, and Boyd is actually gonna break with some bones to Elgin. And once again, I really felt for the guy. Like, you need to be a completely like piece of shit, I don't know, killer, rapist kind of person for me not to feel sorry for you if you are being tortured. Like, this guy is just being naive and stupid, and also like, you know, being completely manipulated by this place. He's not really a villain, and he is like getting a hammer in his hand. So also remember this moment and compare it later. Like, look at them running after Dani Acosta. By the way, we finally have her first name. It's probably short from Danielle, which is from you know, like a biblical word that's saying like being judged by God. Maybe something symbolic here, whatever. But they're like completely running like Usain Bolt after her, like, we need to stop you. And once again, the calendar, we're gonna talk about it. Calendar is important. The next time they're gonna run, they're gonna really take their time slow. Anyway, like Fatima here is trying to do some Planned Parenthood, and the Ghost of Tsushima stops her, tell her, I'll kill you. If you're gonna do it again, I'll kill you. And she's saying it's coming. So, hint, this is not gonna be a he or she or anybody else who is human but identifies as an it. It's gonna be an it. And it's gonna be a not very nice it. So we have here Sarah talking to Elgin. She's trying to, like, not even trying to convince him. She understands because she's been in his shoes. She's basically saying what I was talking about, like, we are exactly what this place is looking for. We're kind of innocent, we're a little bit dumb, and we really want to help. We want to be the good guys. You remember when Sarah was talking in the beginning of this season? She was saying like, I would give anything to feel like a good person again. this is what this place gave her, like she was saving everybody, and this is what Elgin feels right now. He is saving everybody. So yeah, like she's saying basically, I'm not gonna let Boyd completely destroy his soul. Maybe what he did is not like 100% point of no return. I mean, he broke some bones on his arm, but you know, like, who doesn't do that on Friday? Whatever. Maybe there's still something to save there in Boyd's soul. So Sarah takes all of the emotional, whatever, like horrific load on her, and she's doing some not very nice 50 Shades of Grey thingies to Elgin. And when they hear Elgin is screaming, like a couple of minutes ago, they were like running like crazy, and this time they're like taking the time slow. Like after they ran on the stairs, Boyd was like walking forward. He was like, hey, you know what? Maybe we're gonna give her a couple of more seconds, and we can see the eye. Of course, the eye. We're not gonna have a TV show called From without people losing their eye, because we had this girl almost losing her eye, we have this statue without an eye, we have this fucker here in the intro bleeding from his eye, and we have this one also bleeding from the other eye, and we have here this vision by Jade here looking at some weirdo chained to a tree and having some kind of a railroad spike in his eye. So yeah, here we can see already him probably after he's been tortured next to the tree, drinking some blood from you know, like a skull. So I, and we're talking here about cycles. You remember, people have a role. Maybe this bearded guy is Elgin from previous, maybe even the first cycle, because we can see him being tied to the tree, very similar to what Boyd did to Elgin, tying him to the chair. He has been probably tortured with somebody putting a railroad spike in his eye, and then after that, for some reason, he drinks some blood. It kind of raises a question, is Elgin completely dead or not? He didn't look alive at all. Like, not for a second. I wouldn't bet money on him surviving this, but once again, this place can do some miraculous things, and Elgin has been an ally to this place. Maybe he didn't completely live to his full potential, and maybe he will be saved. I don't know, maybe it's just my idea and I could be wrong, as usual. Every time I share with you some kind of a theory, I don't want to force it. I never say like I'm 100% sure about it. I'm just sharing the things that I think about, and I hope that you will find them interesting. Yes, moving forward, the Ghost of Tsushima giving birth, they're screaming in pain. Once again, they didn't really need Elgin here. And when the music plays, by the way, amazing scene, you know, when Jade was playing his violin and we have this moment, very emotional, very good for season finale. I'm glad they were able to deliver. So she takes the baby and she fucks off to the lower levels, and Boyd's spy is actually chasing her. Now once again, I told you about those structures, those technique of, you know, building something, putting a stone on top of a stone. It looks very much medieval, probably something from the very first cycle, and it was built on top of the caves. You know, where was this ritual? So you see, if I'm gonna share with you everything I'm thinking about right now, this video is gonna be 3 or 4 hours long maybe. So I want to actually gather all of my thoughts, and also after this video make some kind of like my favorite theory, let's call it like this, that I hope will explain a lot that we have seen in these 3 seasons. But anyway, it has to be connected to the Ankui children, to them being born in the dark and being killed in the dark. This place is being completely ruined. Like, you remember those ruins? This is right next to the cellar where Fatima is being held. Look at this structure once again, the stones next on top of each other. We have the same cellar where he was able to find the, you know, the Polaroid, which is also like not a very good place if you find some kind of artifact like that. So it's all connected, and this place was built on top of those caves on purpose. And maybe this purpose was actually giving birth to those Ankui children. So yeah, moving forward, like this moment also was kind of similar to what we have seen with Julie in episode 8, when she was like hearing the Ankui from, you know, from far. Very similar, very small like entrance and some light, and Boyd is gonna like look at them and whatever. Like meanwhile we have Fatima here. We're gonna come back to Boyd in a couple of seconds. So Fatima is basically ruining one of the main principles of cinema, show no tell. And she's telling us what are the monsters. So after 3 seasons, we don't even get to see some kind of a flashback or whatever visual material that will explain to us about the monsters. But I think though we're gonna get something in the next season, because it's completely not enough. Because she's saying like they sacrificed their children. The monsters sacrificed their children because it, look, it with a capital I here, like, promised them that they would live forever. Now it got so excited already in the end of season 2. You remember when Sarah was like, it got so excited when she was hearing voices in the ruins. This is probably the same force that controls the cicadas, or is it? I don't know. Once again, keep this question in mind. We're gonna come back to it when we're gonna cover the Jade Tabitha storyline. Now, after everything, like, okay, we know the monsters, they are from the first cycle, and for some reason they all don't look like it. And I'm not even talking about the clothes. It's, you know, all of them, most of them are being really cleanly shaved, like the way the women are being treated, like, you know, the lipstick, whatever, like some kind of a makeup there. Once again, it can be explained, but so far I don't see medieval people wearing modern day clothes there. I see like monsters wearing clothes from different periods, but maybe it's just me. Now, another interesting thing here is basically if they were the ones who sacrificed some kids, their kids in the village to be, you know, immortal, blah blah blah, and you know, like it works usually in every like fairy tale or whatever. A vampire comes to you and he's like, you're gonna be immortal and you're gonna be able to fly like Dracula and some bullshit like that, and then you're like, oh my god, sounds amazing, and like 5 minutes later, I mean, shit, I cannot believe that now I have to drink blood, I cannot go outside, this is a very bad deal, can I have like a refund or something? And something probably similar to that happened. They were like, yeah, we're gonna be immortal, but you know, like the fine line, you know, the small letters in the end of the contract said you're gonna be immortal as a freaking creature that's gonna be controlled by the same it that promised it to them. This is why maybe when Jasmine was talking to Virgin Mario, she said like, it wasn't my choice to be this way. It's not really working. If it was your choice to sacrifice some kids to become immortal, it was your choice, but maybe it wasn't your choice to actually become a monster. Maybe you were just hoping to be like forever young and whatever, like having the best time of your life, blah blah. So once again, there's still many questions about the monsters, and like, let's throw some hook here. I'm gonna make a video, hopefully very soon, that I'm gonna gather all of the information that we have about the monsters, and I'm just gonna present it to you. And after that, we together as usual, we're gonna think about it, like, what are those monsters, what are the possibilities, what can they be? Anyway, moving forward, the monsters, hello, they're looking at a Smiley being born again, because since you are immortal, even somebody kills you, like, you know, the other sides need to uphold their contract. You promised immortality, now find us some Fatima, so she will be able to give birth to the guy who was killed. And we can see, like, once again, the scene when Elgin and Sarah were dancing, we had the bowling pins, now we have a monster with the shirt, or the bowling shirt. So once again, this guy was what? He was a warlord on some medieval village, and then he was like, oh, bowling, I'm gonna put some bowling shirt? Maybe, but I don't know, it's kinda hard for me to buy. Anyway, we're moving forward. We have Smiley here doing some Arnold Schwarzenegger routine. He's like, I'll be back, I'm back, and he's back. And I hope it was planned and not just, you know, they're like, okay, the fans really want Smiley back, he was awesome, and we really wanted him to be back, but we also wanted it to make sense. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense. Like, this is one of the spoilers that I actually cut ahead before I watched this episode, and I knew already that Smiley's gonna come, and like, my biggest problem with that was like, how you gonna explain all of the monsters? Like, every time somebody's gonna be pregnant, like, it would leave some kind of a traces, some kind of a historical traces for other people to know that there were a lot of pregnancies in this place and, you know, giving birth to monsters.
What the fuck is this?
But since it's not like that every time, it's only when someone of them has been murdered by, you know, the magical blood, of Martin there with the cicadas, then they're coming back, and this way it works way better. Anyway, we're moving forward to the final storyline, the biggest one with the biggest revelations of this episode. Tabitha, Jade, and Jim. So the reason why you, dear Tabitha, felt like Miranda was there when you touched Victor is because Miranda was there. You have the same spirit, the same soul, and we're gonna talk about it today a lot. So Jim is completely redeeming himself in the end of the season. In the last 2 episodes, he's putting his ego aside. He's not trying to be, I'm a big bad dad, I'm gonna protect everyone, I'm gonna be the one to save everyone. He's like putting his ego aside. I need to protect my family. I don't care if I need to ask, beg, grovel, I'm gonna do it all, because this is what it means to be a man who will do whatever it takes to protect his family and even put his ego aside, which is for a lot of men is one of the most difficult things to do. So yeah, he's like talking here to Jade. So he brought Jade back to talk to Tabitha, and they're talking about the salt and pepper. No, I'm talking about actually the salt and pepper. It appears many times and once again. So Jade here is talking about the first law of thermodynamics, and thank you so much for these TV shows and many TV shows like that, like Severance and like Silo and Constellation and many more, that thanks to these TV shows I finally was able to learn the things that was so boring for me in the school. I almost wanted to kill myself every time I had a physics lesson or whatever. So he's talking about the first law of thermodynamics, and it basically says that energy cannot be created and it cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. We are energy. As human beings, we are created from atoms. Atoms are moving, they're radiating, they're creating radiation, so this is some kind of an energy. When we die, this energy doesn't die with us. The atoms, they are transformed into the soil in the ground when we are buried. If our body is burned, it can transfer to the ashes and the energy is still there. It never disappears, it just completely evolves. Now, if you believe that you have a soul, and this is an energy kind of a being, then soul is also cannot just disappear. And maybe in this place it lingers, just like Jade saying here. Maybe in this place it can stay awake, let's say it like this. He was talking about, you know, like Miranda being separate from Tabitha here. He didn't understand it completely, but it still makes sense. You know, like since this place is somehow special, this soul of hers and of his, by the way, they can somehow still remember themselves. They have the Ankui power, they remember. The Ankui turns out the, you know, the mystical powers of remembering shit. Anyway, we had a lot of hints about it before. We had, as I told you, butterflies almost everywhere. Look, here butterfly on this girl, the Kelly one that was killed with a rod through her skull. We had Julie wearing butterflies here. We have Boyd here talking about like the worms, like if you kill a worm and you split it in 2 halves, there's gonna be 2 worms, 2 alive creatures. Something that happens here already, kind of happens here. So the law of thermodynamics kind of tries to explain why we still see the sci-fi label next to From TV show. They don't want this show to be, you know, ooh, booga booga booga, magic. They're actually trying to explain also from scientific, let's call it like this, because probably, you know, like scientists are gonna roll their eyes because it's still sci-fi, it's still magic, whatever, but it's not gonna be like, you know, abracadabra and that's it. They're gonna have to explain it somehow to us. What happens here and why it happens here. So yeah, let's move forward, coming back to Jade here and Jim and Tabitha. They are actually going to the place where they seen the Ankui children, and they're talking about the Ankui, and Ankui is probably a code word for something. We're gonna talk about it a little bit later, but after we know already that Ankui is remember, I spent a couple of, I wouldn't say hours, but enough time searching the ChatGPT history and Google history, trying to find some word in any language that resembles Ankui and actually means remember. I wasn't able to find anything. If you were able to find something, please share. I would love to read your comments about it. But right now I'm gonna assume that this is some kind of a made-up word that was made up for the Ankui children, just for them to use it as some sort of a code, you know, like a magical word or whatever. So yeah, we're moving forward. Like one of the best scenes once again, like Jade is screaming his lungs out for us, saying like, you could have just said it already, you could have just given us this information a couple of episodes ago. No, yeah, I kind of agree, and this is a little bit of criticism from my part. I know that most of you don't really like when I criticize this show, but I have to be honest. Like, if you have a moment of revelation, and you know, like all of those movies, these TV shows, like, you know, that you understand that Kaiser Soze is actually, I'm not gonna spoil this movie for you, even though it kind of was released like 30 years ago, but then your mind is gonna be exploded, like, oh my god. But when the revelation is basically like, oh, by the way, this is it, you're like, you could have just shown it to us like seasons ago. So what was this whole point of lingering, of like holding this information? Anyway, moving forward, like this look that Jim gives to Tabitha when Jade is screaming, I absolutely enjoyed it. He's like, really? This guy? Anyway, they're talking about the bottle tree and the bottle replica. Once again, I have a little bit of a trouble with this, because we know that, you know, Miranda with Henry, they took some acid in the original park, and this is when she started to hear some voices of the Ankui children. Now, when they took the acid, was the bottle tree already there, or it was something that already was made after they were hearing the voices? Because probably it's the second option, but once again, it probably needed to be handled otherwise, like, you know, like being explained like this. Ankui children told Miranda to make this bottle tree, and then it kind of made more sense. But it felt like from Henry's explanation, like Miranda was just, you know, she was an artist and she made a bottle tree, and then she was like, oh my god, we have a bottle tree in Fromville too. So anyway, moving forward, and Jim is like, I know that some people gonna think that I'm probably pissed off because like my theory didn't come true, even though I couldn't care less. I told you already many times, I don't care to be right or not being right about something. This is not the reason why I enjoy this show. It's about the path, it's not about the destination. And this, you know, this cliche sentence works really well for this show. But when they tell us that Jade is a freaking genius who knows how to use some Babylonian 12 whatever scriptural Aristotle blah 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 code to try to decipher what those 12 numbers could mean, but he didn't think even for a freaking second about 12 notes. Oh. I mean, this is a bit exhausting for me. I mean, it had to be handled better. I mean, yeah, anyway, we're moving forward. It's the music notes. Okay, still have some questions, like still we're gonna have the doll screaming at Jade. We still have some questions about the numbers in the lighthouse and whatever, but meanwhile, okay, universal language, this is the notes, we're moving forward, and he's using the musical code, and suddenly he can hear the music, because, you know, like he can hear the music, and Jim once again being the voice of reason here, and he's saying to them, this is probably not a good idea, because as you heard Sarah, us, the audience, in a couple of minutes ago, she said this place doesn't give, it only takes. So if you're hearing music right now that just popped into your head, maybe it's not such a good idea to play this music. Maybe it's gonna do something bad, and probably it's gonna do something bad. So anyway, like they decide to go and play the music next to the battle tree, and meanwhile we have Julie here talking to Ethan, and they're talking about not uncoing Thomas anymore, and like once again, you know, the laws of thermodynamics. Nothing is disappearing from this world. Thomas is gonna be here somewhere. And here, once again, I really need to read this Chrominocle, because it looks like Chrominocle is basically a one-on-one guide how to write a story. Because Ethan here is talking about a story walker, so this is like Julie got an upgrade. She got some experience, so she was upgraded to a story walker, and she actually traveled like Ethan used to talk about this story in season 1, like it all fit together, all the images, it's all a story. And Julie is excited because she thinks she can travel the time and she can change things. And Ethan says that it doesn't work like that, and he is wrong, because we have already seen her influencing the past. She went to the ruins and she threw the rope to Boyd, so she can influence the past, and no one can change a story once it's been told. Or once again, there are a lot of theories about time travel, a lot of different approaches. And one of them is basically like, if I'm, or Julie, let's say, travels from 2034 to 1965 or whatever. So she is in past, okay? But 1965, Julie in the 1965, this is the future of Julie from 2034. You see what I'm going? Like, this is her future. Even though she's in the past, she's not in her past. She's in her future. So her story continues. So her coming back in time and changing something doesn't change her story. Okay? You know, not his story, her story. I'm kidding, of course. So yeah, maybe this is how it's gonna work, because we've seen her influencing already some events from the past. So we have the music works and the Ankui children coming, and the crows again are watching, crows going distantly. And if you remember, when we seen the bottle tree for the first time, Sarah had a seizure and she was looking at bottle trees, and they were like, you know, pretty ominous and like very dangerous. So maybe it's not just, you know, a musical box that you need to play violin next to it and then brings Ankui children to you. Maybe it has some kind of a different, you know, effects also on this place, on people on this place. So we probably didn't finish with all of the mysteries of the bottle tree. Once again, it's in my humble opinion. So we have this girl, and we've seen her already with the same scar on her forehead, but this time this scar kind of bleeds. So this is her very soon after the sacrifice, after the ritual. She's still bleeding from her forehead. So you remember this girl, okay? This is the small scar here on her forehead we've seen, and she's holding arms with this boy. So if this girl is actually Tabitha's and Jade's daughter, just like they said, once again, we didn't get like 100% proof of that, but it kind of like, once again, we can think about it logically. She was the one coming to Tabitha. She was like, Ankui, Ankui, please, mommy, Ankui. I said Ankui. And maybe she's their daughter, but if she's holding hands with this boy, is this just because she really likes him? Or maybe they also had a son and not just a girl. Very similar to what happens with Tabitha and Jim right now. They also have a boy and a girl, and you know, like Henry and Miranda had a boy and a girl. And maybe this is why Thomas died, because they were not allowed to have more children, because they needed to have a boy and a girl. And Miranda remembers, she hears the code word, and for some reason this time with the music, with the lullaby, she's like, yes, I remember you now, you're the Ankui children. Now, once again, another question. Yeah, it kinda makes sense right now, but why the hell they were screaming at the trees Ankui? Like, what did they want the trees to remember? They were like, ooh, remember the trees. This is not, no, this doesn't really work for me once again. So my fantasy is basically like is evolving here already, and like already completely speculating. But we know that the couple, you know, the couple that wanted to save the kids, they told them the story. Remember the boy in white talking to Christopher? So some people that the children trusted, they killed them, but there were people that loved them and they told them a story, and the Ankui children, they poured their hope into the trees, and this is how this whole place was created. Not the whole place, maybe the bottle tree was created. So maybe once again the whole Ankui is a made-up word, it's a code word. So maybe it's some kind of a deity, maybe something like this. When Jade, the first cycle Jade and the first cycle Tabitha were telling those kids a story, and they were telling them that they're gonna be remembered and they're gonna live in memory and they're never gonna die because of the Ankui. And if they're gonna like find them in the next life, I'm gonna find you in the next life, you use the Ankui word, and this is how I'm gonna like recognize you. This is how I am first cycle Tabitha, Miranda, whatever, gonna recognize you in the next and the next life. And this is why they were screaming Ankui to the trees, because this is like the magic word, the code word to be used like in order to create magical things. Like completely speculating here. So yeah, like Jade is saying, like we used to sing them lullabies, and we heard the lullabies already in season 2 when Randall was, you know, in the bus. We heard one of the monsters like singing a lullaby. We had this conversation between Bhakta and the rest. She was talking about the grandmother used to sing the lullaby to them. Now, if they, you know, once again, first cycle Jade and first cycle Tabitha were singing lullabies to those kids, maybe they were singing some, like, not only the lullabies they invented, but maybe something that were kind of popular at this period, and this is why Bacta's grandmother also knew the same lullaby. And since, once again, the Kui children kind of created this place from the lullabies, the cicadas, the musical box, everything is related to the lullaby that they heard when they were little. You know, like first cycle Jade was like singing to them, they come for free, they take the break, they fuck you up, unless you stop the melody. And they were like, okay, sounds like an interesting story, here you go, cicadas. So maybe something like this happens here. And still no answer about what's with all the screams for Jade, like how is it connected to him, the doll. I mean, we know that he has been Christopher, yeah, so this is why he sees the doll, but why the doll and this freak are screaming at him, screaming their lungs out many times already through the 3 seasons? I don't know. And like, once again, the bracelet, she explains the bracelet, this is why she makes it, because this is the same soul, so she needs to make the bracelet. And they were talking about the song, you know, the Blue Song by Joni Mitchell. So she's saying we've come back here over and over again. So yeah, the Blue Song, sorry, here. Jade and I were here at the beginning, so it's not 2 cycles, it's not just Miranda's soul, like you can understand it. There were many cycles. If it was just the 2 cycles, she would say I used to be Miranda and he used to be Christopher and this is why I came back, but you say it like over and over again, and we've been here from the beginning. Maybe they're not the only one who've been here from the beginning, maybe everyone here is from the beginning. Maybe this is why they're being drawn to this place, maybe this is how they are being picked, because this is the same souls from the first cycle of this place. I'm not really sure about this theory. I way more enjoy of the hope theory, you know, the hope what drives those people here, and this is why this place chooses them. Also, like, we know that if, like, whatever Fatima has seen, the monsters are the creatures, are the people from the first cycle that, you know, sacrifice their kids, and the only one who were normal are like first cycle Jade and first cycle Tabitha here. So maybe not, but still I have to voice every theory that comes to my mind. So we tried to save the children, didn't work out, and this is the story, you know. We tried to save the children, look at those 2 people here, this is obviously Tabitha here and Jade, and this is the rest of the monsters, like doing the sacrifice for the 7 Kui children, the 7 Kui children creating the symbol, and then the monsters come. This is probably, you know, some kind of a deity, maybe the same guy in the yellow suit that we've seen already in this episode, and he turns the monsters, it turns the people to red, and they're like dancing next to the crops and like Macarena, and like she's like talking about her vision, and she's saying that she was our daughter, it was ours, and yeah. So another questions from me, the skeptical guy. It explains Jade's visions, the one that he's been seeing, like, you know, the Civil War soldier, the, you know, the guy with the boulder, you know, blah 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 blah. But it doesn't really explain this vision of Tabitha. Once again, the one with the girl is kind of being explained here, but this one, when she sees in episode 9 in season 1, she sees herself in the lighthouse, and she's seeing Ethan's toys, she's talking to them. So is it a memory from the future? Probably, possibly, I would say. So Jim is here, like, completely, his soul is being crushed, his heart is being broken, he is redeeming himself only to understand that there is no future for his family. And he flashbacks to this moment. Like a couple of seconds before they saw the tree, he said to Tabitha, like, sometimes I remember what it was like before. And Tabitha says to him, please stop. So Jim was hoping that he can recover, he can rebuild his family. And Tabitha was probably the one who initiated, I think they actually talked about it, I kind of forgot. She was the one to initiate the divorce. He wanted to save his family, this was his biggest hope. And after this revelation, he understands there's absolutely no future for Matthew's family here. And it kind of breaks my heart, honestly. I was rooting for them. I know Jim is not perfect, I know Tabitha is not perfect, I know their family is far from being perfect, but I was kind of rooting for them. They were like, you know, especially in season 1, they were really there for each other and they were a family. And there are people who are like fans of, you know, love between Jade and Tabitha. In my mind, it doesn't work. completely. I cannot imagine that. I cannot imagine Jade being a stepfather to Ethan and Julie and them accepting this like it's normal. I don't know, it just doesn't really fit in my head. Anyway, we're moving forward, so suddenly we get some Julie from the future. And she's running to Jim and she's saying like, Dad, you have to run, blah, blah, blah. And we can see that she has a scar on her cheek. It's something that looks like it's been like with a claw or something like this. Very similar to what Randall had on his cheek also, but you know, like way less devastating. And she's saying to him, you need to get to the town right now. I need to change the story. And then we see the dude with the yellow suit. Sorry, I'm just recapping it. Soon we're gonna start reviewing it and giving you some information. So we have this kind of weirdo here, and he's talking about Jade. He's the man in yellow. Now here it kind of looks that his eyes are black, but maybe it's just the quality of the image, because like in the other shots we can see his eyes, but if his eyes are black, this is a very like popular demonic sign from Christianity. And I'm not only talking about supernatural, it's also like, according to my Google research, it's also being used in the Bible. So obviously this is this dude, but here he's way older. This guy is being drawn like not an old guy. This is somebody who's young, relatively. So here he's a bit older and he's saying that didn't have to happen. This didn't have to happen, you know. He was trying to warn them. And he's saying knowledge comes with a cost. And look at who is he looking. He's not looking at Jim right now. He's talking to Julie. Those words are directed to her. And he's saying to her like she's breaking the rules. What she's doing right now, you know, the whole time travel thingy, she's breaking the rules. If she wants to get this knowledge that she's getting, she's gonna have to pay. And she's gonna have to pay with Jim's life. And he's saying, I did try to warn you. And he's saying, you know, the famous sentence, your wife shouldn't have dug that hole, Jim. Obviously, this is a reference to the end of season 1 when Jim was talking to the radio and he heard the voice on the other side saying to him, your wife shouldn't be digging that hole, Jim. So we can assume, not like once again super safely, but for the sake of this video, that everything that was somehow connected to technology, to radio, to all the static noises, to all the Thomas talking to you through the phone was somehow created or manipulated by the dude in yellow, who was maybe inspired by the Dr. Mabue's story, you know, the mastermind who controls everything, who has the telepathic forces and blah 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 blah. I'm not saying that he's the one, 100% not, but maybe it was somehow influenced. Also, another interesting thing, it kind of felt, and I'm talking here completely from my gut and intuition, that this guy related to crows. You know, like kind of blackish eyes, you know, the crows are also black and he's outside during the day. This is completely changing the rules. He's not one of the monsters. As we remember, Martin said that monsters just the tip of the spear and there are way more powerful and angrier things in the middle of the forest. He's probably one of them, or maybe even the big bad boss. But if he is controlling the crows, we remember this image from the beginning of season 2 where the crow were eaten by the mouse, by the rats in the caves. Does it mean that this fucker really is not connected to the monsters, and monsters were created by some other force, not the dude in yellow? Even though it kind of makes sense that the dude in yellow was the it that Fatima was talking about, that, you know, the people gave sacrifice to him and he was like, yeah, now you're gonna be immortal, but you didn't read the fine line in the contract. So once again, something to think about. So we have the ectomy trickster spider theory. We talked about it a couple of times. We talked about, you know, the history of United States and how it's related to, once again, the genocide of the Native Americans. And one of the most famous tribes was Lakota Sioux, and one of their gods, deities, was actually Ectomy, the trickster spider. And when I saw this dude, you know, with his long arms and his super skinny long legs, it kind of felt spider-ish to me. Once again, I'm not saying he's Ectomy, but maybe it's also, just like Dr. Mabuse, served as some sort of inspiration for the creation of this character, because once again, look at the spider. We have seen him in the images. We have seen the drawings of the spider web as the caves. We have seen, you know, a lot of spider web, the real spider web in the middle of the forest, where Abby, probably not really Abby, the master of disguise, you know, maybe this guy in the yellow suit, maybe he was actually taking here Abby's form. Maybe he can actually, you know, like be whatever he wants to be, present himself as whatever he wants to be. So is it possible that the song that Jade played for the tree also released this guy? Once again, this place doesn't give, it only takes. And if you hearing this music in your head right away, it pops in your head, maybe if you're gonna play it, something bad also happened. Not only something good, but also something bad. Now, let's talk about time travel. Many of us already speculated about it from season 1, you know, the Emily Dickinson poem, Forever is composed of noun, being able to time travel. There were a lot of hits, but there's also the time loop symbol from the caves. We've seen Jade drawing this symbol, we've seen this symbol of infinity also on Miranda's map. There were a lot of signs for a time loop also. And if you remember what the boy in white said to Christopher, the answer to the end is in the beginning. If this is not a hint for a time loop, I don't know what is. Another also symbol of, you know, the merry-go-round is also can be interpreted as something that repeats itself many times. So look at Julie here, and look at the way she's dressed. Look at her sneakers. This is Converse. I know it's not something like that it's only been existed in the 70s, but when you look at her jeans and on her top, once again, I'm not a fashion expert, but it kind of screams 70s for me. 70s, you know, like her hairstyle, the way she's dressed, it kind of screams 70s to me, and this explains completely this moment when I was actually the one to dismiss it completely, and people were asking me, I was like, yeah, come on, this is not relevant, this is just one of the monsters trying to manipulate Julie. But now, since we know that Julie can travel time, and she can be in every year, and you know, she can go to wherever she wants to go, if she will discover, you know, actually how to control this, she probably was seeing this monster decades before, maybe even before he was a monster, and this is why he was able to recognize her and she wasn't.
Julie,
Hey, what are you doing?
don't you recognize me?
Now it works once again with the 70s, because if you remember, we talked about it already a couple of times. Look at the symbol, the J on his shirt. We have the same J on the cheerleader shirt here, and we already found that this is from an actually real school from New York State, and it's called Jamestown or wherever, something like this. Doesn't really important, but this is what they were wearing in the year 1972. So it does work in my mind that Julie was able to travel back, and maybe she was even stuck in the 70s for a while there. And maybe she also found a way to not just travel back in time, but actually travel, you know, forward. And maybe she was able to actually see the town before everybody there was murdered, and maybe she was even, you know, like being able to escape this place and not be in Fromville, maybe being in the outside world. Maybe this is also actually what happened to Eloise, and this is why she wasn't able to reach to her father when she escaped. Sorry, maybe she's somewhere in the past, in the far away past. So we also have the Chrominocle, and this is another interesting theory that came to my mind. Basically, we remember the Chrominocle. Well, yeah, this is a she. Like, look at the girl here. We can see the comic books. Like, we talk about the Chrominocle, and when Jim was doing the voices, Ethan was like, oh, come on, she doesn't sound like that. And here in this moment, if you remember, also in season 1, when Ethan was completely scared and afraid after Sarah wanted to kill him, Julie took him to read him the Chrominocle. She knew the story very well. Even like the first scene that we see them in the season, in season 1, when Julie is talking to Ethan and she's saying about, you know, like the Norman and the fairies and the Lake of Tears, and he died, blah blah blah. She probably read the Chrominocle many times to Ethan. Maybe she was the one to come back in past and actually write the Chrominocle in the way that it's needed to be written for Ethan to know what is a story walker, what is a threshold, and all of the information that he later gives Julie. And this is how it creates a time loop. Okay, There is a but here, obviously, because in this conversation in season 1, like Ethan for some reason calls Knuckle a he. Whenever the Knuckle fade, he always says, so is it a he or is it a she? We don't know. But if it's a she, it kind of works with the idea that maybe Julie was the one to write this book. Also, maybe it's still dates, because it doesn't make sense to me that 1506, 1864, 1609, it's all music. All of those musics, all of those, musical sequences starts with the same note. It's a little bit suspicious, maybe once again, since Julie became the time traveler, maybe since Julie, can time travel, and maybe she also taught Tabitha to do so, they were, living in the lighthouse and using the lighthouse to time travel somehow, because it's also a structure that is similar to the ruins, and maybe it can be used also to time travel, and this is where they engraved the years that they visited in order to try to fix those things. And once again, Julie's appearance had a lot of cliche from the heroes that try to change the past. Like, if you've seen a lot of sci-fi TV shows related to the time travel, there's a lot of heroes there that are trying to to protect the past, change the past in order to save something, and they're very, very frustrated because no matter what they try, somehow the past remains the past and the future remains the future, untouched. Once again, maybe it still dates, and this moment, if Jim is actually dead and the dude in the yellow killed him, and this is from the future, how it happened? We didn't have this moment. We didn't have Jim laying like this, being like a hang-up man, whatever, holding to his flashlight, trying to catch it. We didn't have this. Since we didn't have this, we're gonna have to have it. Otherwise, it was not a good script. Okay, and since we have from episode 2 in season 1 a moment that connects to the end of season 3 with the guy doing, "Hey Julie, you remember me?" It kind of gives me a lot of hope that there is a plan and they know exactly what to do, and if there is something there, it's gonna be connected to something else. And if we are seeing Jim here, we're gonna see him in the future seasons. I don't know in what kind of stature, whatever he's gonna do, but I'm pretty sure he's gonna be there for us again. Anyway, we're moving forward, and we're not moving forward. This is it. Sorry, this is the last screenshot that I did prepare for you, and I hope you enjoy this video. I enjoyed a lot preparing it for you. Oh my god, there's a lot of editing for me right now, and I hope I'm gonna be able to do this today because I need to release the video as soon as possible. You know how YouTube works, algorithms, schmalgorithms, and so on and so on and so on. So I've been editing for a couple of hours and I almost forgot. I promised you a theory about the calendar, and as we can see on the calendar, we have the year 1971, and we've seen the cheerleader was from 1972. Now the calendar has a lot of, circle dates and a question mark. And once again, it's just a vibe, it's just the intuition, but it kind of feels that maybe Julie was the one who was actually, working this calendar in 1971, years before Donna was actually, living in this room. So what do you think about it? Anyway, as you can probably hear and understand, this is all pretty fresh. This is all a lot of expression and, impression after watching this episode for the first time. I watched it twice today, and all of my emotions and all the hype of the season finale is still up there for me. So I want to take a small break. I want to do this silo review tomorrow, and I want to take my time and try to build some very structured logical theory that explains most of the things that we have seen in the past 30 episodes. And I'm gonna make this video for you, and I hope you're gonna enjoy it. So even though we finished this fucking amazing ride here for 10 episodes, you've been coming to these videos, you've been leaving comments, you've been liking my videos, you've becoming Patreons and sponsors on YouTube, growing this community, making me feel like on top of the world and humble in the same time, and feeling a lot of responsibility to create the best content that I can possibly create. So it was amazing, and I really don't want it to be over. Obviously, I'm gonna do reviews for other TV shows. This is not From channel. even though it's one of my favorite shows. But I enjoy a lot of pop culture TV shows, movies, video games, whatever. Every time there's something interesting for me to talk to you about it, I'm gonna use this opportunity to talk to you about it, even if it's not gonna be as popular as From, which probably it's not gonna be. But still, I also want to continue to do something about From, because there is still so much more to do, and I'm so happy that I didn't do the monsters video before the end of season finale, because like I would have to redo this video right now. We got so much more information about the monsters right now, and now I'm gonna make a very good substantial video that covers this topic and many more. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to support this channel in any way you want, whatever feels comfortable to you. Now I'm so happy that this, like, the Patreon grows, the YouTube grows, the sponsorship grows, but once again I have to ask you from the bottom of my heart, do this only if you are very well financially. I know it doesn't sound too much, it's only $2, it's only $5, whatever, but if it's a year, it's already $60. If it's $10 a month, it's already $120 a year. So if you are not financially stable, like I'm gonna say stable, not like fucking stable, don't support this channel. Please save your money. This is not something that's needed, but it's really appreciated. And if you just wanna like watch this video until the end and that's it, without even liking, subscribing and all of this bullshit that usually YouTuber asks, it's still amazing, because I make those videos for you to watch them and not to like them. Like is just a bonus. Watching this video is actually complete my goal for like making something interesting for you that you will be able to enjoy. Very long outro. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna see you on the next one. Bye.
The first law of thermodynamics is that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only change from one form to another. And our thoughts, our memories, our souls, if you believe in that sort of thing, they're made of energy. And that energy, maybe here, that energy, I don't know, maybe it lingers.
You know, if you cut a worm in half, it grows back into two worms.
And don't feel guilty. I'll come with you when you go.
If we die, will we get to see Thomas again?
Yeah, we will.
Grandpa too?
Grandpa too.
Maybe it won't be so bad then.